No, I'm not a big fan of this video today.
Gentlemen, good morning. Good morning. An historic occasion. This meeting is being streamed live. Virtue of our esteemed and learned webmaster, Bruce. Both he and Colin have done a sterling job in getting us organised to this point. I'm not sure whether he's receiving the streaming, but if he is, I'll say hello to Gary Nervo and possibly Brian McMahon. Paul Flanagan was going to be in the trial, but Paul had other commitments, but we'll pick him up on another occasion. So it is truly an historic event, and I think an indication of where we go from here in terms of offering our members additional opportunities, both to come in if they can't be here and also for us to use speakers remotely. And I think Colin did and I did participate with a Probus headquarters group recently, and they were very impressed that we had reached this point. I don't think there was anyone else in our group who had reached this stage, so well done, particularly to Bruce and to Colin. Any guests? No. Birthdays? We got a birthday? No. No. All right. Our Vice President's an apology. He's dispensing justice at Broadmeadows, which will be an interesting experience for him for the day. So he's an apology. So I won't do a formal roll call, but I will take apologies. And if I could record John Doherty, Keith Tupper, and can I mention with Keith that he's got a magnificent Arden Crescent concert of the Welsh Choir next Sunday. If anyone's interested, we've signed up for it, but he's very heavily involved in getting things organised, so he's an apology. And Michael Doherty is also an apology. Are there any other apologies, gentlemen?
Noel Benton.
Noel Benton, thanks Brian.
John Philp.
John Philp.
David Lunn.
David Lunn, thank you.
Rob Adams.
Rob Adams.
Brian McMahon. He's very busily occupied because he's going to be inducted as a life member of the Melbourne Racing Club very soon, so he's probably gone out to get a haircut and everything.
He's got to be at his 100% best, Rob, when he gets inducted to a life membership of the Melbourne Racing Club. That's great. That's it? Okay. Let's move on to reports. And I might start with our very esteemed treasurer, who is keeping us solvent.
Yeah, we've still got $1,643.78 petty cash. That's about it.
Thank you. Thanks, Bert. Alan Evans, I think, would like to say a few words on behalf of Gary, who is still up on the island, but will be back in a couple of weeks. Al, do you want to?
Thanks, David. Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Yes, just a few words now as far as lunch, what we had last time at Cramer's Hotel. Good event. We had 12 people attend, but we had a lot of absentees and that, mainly because of ill health and things. Now, at the moment, we've got the 9th, we've got today's the 9th, but you've got next month's RSL Probus meeting. Put your names down on there, please, so we can get the numbers for that. And then we've got an external luncheon at the RSL in Montmorency. Thank you for that. Yeah. Now, the other thing is, as a reminder to the people who are going on the Joint Progress Club trip to Mildura, Broken Hill, which is at the end of October, I think. And just that their final payment needs to be in before the 2nd of September. Okay. Thank you, gents. That's all. Short and sweet.
So flyers about the trip to next year to Sydney and the Blue Mountains.
Yep.
That's the one. Yeah. That's
Yeah,
the
there's
one.
some flyers at the back there.
Okay. Well, if anybody's thinking of going to Sydney next year, April, isn't it?
Yeah.
April, yep.
But you have a look into it.
Yeah, just have a look at the flyers and make up
Flyers
your mind
and
where you
see
want
what you
to
think
go.
about it. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Alan. Just watch that cord there.
Yeah, ready for call one.
That's it.
It's a web up there.
Now, Colin, our secretary, I'll mention with respect to Cole, and he might like to say a few words as well, is that the questionnaire, which was available at the last meeting, which was on the newsletter, and we've got some more here. Very important to get everyone to fill one in and pass it to Cole, and then the committee will have a look at it and we'll drill down from there. It's interesting with this Probus meeting, various suggestions were put up that clubs are doing by way of activities, some of which we're involved in, but just to mention a few, one was Mahjong. Not sure whether we have many Mahjong players here. Photography was another one that is being utilised. 10-pin bowling. How we go, boys, on the 10-pin bowling? Not sure about 10-pin bowling, but that's one of their activities. Here's one for next year, though. Footy tipping. And I reckon that's a good idea. We could think about running a footy tipping competition for next year. What do you think? Yeah, okay. Well, we'll put that on the list, Cole, for next year to have a footy tipping competition. We'll have to work out what the prize is. But there are just a couple of ones that have been mentioned by other clubs. Book groups was another, and also music groups. And of course, we have got our legendary music master, Noel, who a lot are involved with. So look, please, if you haven't already, please fill out a questionnaire so that we've got input from everyone. Now, there's an event coming up in September, Rob, and that's the church service.
That's right.
And that's at St John's Anglican Church, down the bottom of Burgundy Street, Warringal Park in Heidelberg. And I think, is it, Rob, the 25th of September?
25th of September, and at 2:30 in the afternoon.
Yep.
And followed by afternoon tea.
Followed by afternoon tea. We're not hosting, obviously, this year, but we'd like to have a good attendance. Just as a straw poll at the moment, could we get an indication of how many would be likely to be able to go? You just get the number there, Rob? Just keep it.
It's a Sunday.
It's a Sunday, yeah.
What time?
2:30.
Oh, sorry.
Beautiful, thanks very much.
Okay, they just need some numbers for catering purposes, so we'll pass that on.
Probably be in the newsletter anyway.
Yeah. Bruce will put it in the newsletter so that there's a reminder there. But look, it's an important event, I think, for the clubs to have a service each year, and it's something that we ought to support. So if you can, I'd urge you to come along. Now, the Heidelberg Choral and Symphony Orchestra are doing a performance at the Anglican Church, Graham?
Yeah, Anglican Church in East Ivanhoe.
In East Ivanhoe. It's following the journey of St Paul,
Right.
as I understand it. I think Mendelssohn is the composer involved, and that's on Saturday the 17th of September and Sunday the 18th of September.
That's right.
So I've got some flyers here, which you can pick up one if you'd like to, and bookings will be through Try Booking.
Mm-hmm.
But that will be a great performance. Good to see them back in action. Of course, there was one not that long ago at the Anglican Church. Now, I don't think David Lunt's not here. You all got the email about Will. Not sure if anyone's got any further information about how Will's travelling.
No, hopefully he's still travelling along well.
I sent him an e-card, but I don't think he's picked it up, so it probably may not get picked up. But anyway, I sent him an e-card, a get well e-card, so to brighten his day.
Hawthorne, Epworth, is it?
Yeah, Epworth Hawthorne.
Is that an address?
Sorry.
I'll look it up in that case.
Yeah, look at it.
I think I sent it to his email address, so I think others have sent messages to his email address. I don't think, is there any, in David's absence, does anyone know of any of our other members who might not be travelling well they want to mention? No, okay. All right, well, he'll update us in the newsletter. So I think I've covered everything, the survey and the church service. So John Metcalf is going to take us on a journey to the old country, and following his recent trip. So we look forward to that. And I'll get out of his way because he's got all his hardware here. We've got to get him mic'd up for the stream.
How's that, Bruce?
All right. Just watch the wires.
Thank you. David, when do you want to do that one? Just mention that.
Oh yeah, that's
50 Burwood Road, that's the Hawthorne Epworth facility, just over the River Road.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I'll do it now.
Do it now. Yeah.
Okay, well, okay.
You do it. Okay.
Okay.
John, before he starts his presentation, he's going to mention a suggested excursion, which I think sounds terrific, to the seafarers. So he'll tell us a little bit about that, and he's got a flyer about it.
Anybody on email should have had this from me. It's an exhibition at the Maritime Mission to Seafarers at the bottom end of Flinders Street. I went to it a few years ago, and I thought it was a very interesting little exhibition. Basically, amateur paintings of ships, obviously, but it was very high standard. It's at the bottom end of Flinders Street, 717, which is a kilometre and a half from Flinders Street Station and about 0.7 of a kilometre from Southern Cross. Parking there is non-existent. It's probably further to the parking than this is to the railway station. And it could be an awkward place to take a bus, but I thought if enough people were interested, we could try and organise a tour, or if not, you can do your own thing and go down. I certainly will be going, and I've heard from David and Colin, and both expressed an interest. So if anybody is interested, maybe just get in touch with me to take the load off Alan, and we'll sort something out over the next few days.
It's a unique architectural building.
It
It's a
is.
unique architectural building.
The building
It is
itself
good,
is,
yeah.
yeah.
It's worth just seeing the building.
Yep.
It is.
When is that on?
It's on from the where are we? September the 30th to October the 16th.
Yeah.
So
It's a dome.
it's a month away. You've got time to think about it. I'll leave this up the front somewhere anyway. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for coming and listening to me today. I think the word must have got out when I was talking, which is why there's so few people here. Everybody else has run for cover. And when I was looking for a file name for this, I thought, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
That Travel 2022 was a good one, because it was actually Travel 2020 originally, but COVID landed at 3 days before I was due to take off. I had to cancel everything, but I didn't get full refunds on everything, and some of them I just got a deferral. You can still use this fare, but sometime in the future. So I thought, well, I've got to go. So I actually went, and my initial target was to go and see my sister-in-law, who's 98, in my own hometown, and for Pat to visit her hometown in Huddersfield, which she'd not seen since she emigrated in 1960. And we went on to have a look at some mountains and some snow, and to go to Cornwall, where I'd never been. And I could go on, endlessly about the sites, but many of you will have seen, the major sites around the world. So I thought I'd talk mainly about trains, which seem to get in my way quite a lot. I'll just wait until I work this out here. Okay. When I first got there, I picked up a hire car and drove it back through my hometown with great difficulty, because everything had changed. Couldn't even find the university I went to. But I did get the local pub, and that managed to let me put away Newcastle Brown Ale and calm my nerves for the next stage of the journey. And then next thing we did was to go to Pat's hometown. Whoops, 2 for the price of 1. Go back. Okay. Pat's hometown, where the main street, which used to have trams and buses and all sorts of things on it, is now a pedestrian mall. And not unnaturally, it was raining. As usual. Now, excuse me, I'm just a bit slow with this. We then went to Ilkley Moor. How many of you know the song Ilkley Moor Bar Tat? On Ilkley Moor Bar Tat. You know all the verses? Well, it goes on, where hast thou been since I saw thee? If you need it translating into English, let me know. Where hast thou been since I saw thee? On Ilkley Moor Bar Tat. This is Ilkley Moor Bar Tat. Thou's been a courting Mary Jane. On Ilkley Moor Bar Tat. Thou's bound to get the death of cold. Then we shall have to bury thee. Then worms will come and eat thee up. Then ducks will come and eat up worms. Then we shall come and eat up ducks. Then we shall all have eaten thee on Ilkley Moor Bar Tat. Okay, so we had to go to Ilkley Moor Bar Tat.
Make it bigger.
Didn't make it bigger. But the more important thing about it is that that's the start of the Yorkshire Dales, which, being a Yorkshireman, of course, I think is rather a nice place. But it's also important because of Blind Jack. It happened to be Blind Jack Metcalf. And unfortunately, the pub had run out of beer. As you can see, all the empties are stacked outside. So I didn't get a beer, but I did think you might be interested to know a little bit about blind Jack, and because it's got dates in it, I have to look it up. He was blind because he got smallpox at the age of 6. And was born in 1717. He was 1.89 metres tall, so he's a big fellow for 1717, and very active in spite of being blind. He once walked home from London back to Yorkshire, 300 kilometres in 6 days, and he bet the chap who had challenged him for the journey, who was travelling in stagecoach, he bet him by 2 days. He also fought against the Scots in the Scottish War of Independence sort of thing, and was asked after the battle, somebody said to him, well, how did you manage to escape as a blind man? He said, I followed the sound of the officers' horses. He was obviously fairly famous locally, and that's his statue in the town square. The rim of the wheel that he's got in front of him had a little protrusion on it, so every time it hit the protrusion he could count how many protrusions and count the distance he travelled. He built something like 300 kilometres of roads in the area and made a fortune out of it. Unfortunately, he didn't leave any to me. But having looked at his statue, we went off up into the Dales, which is very pleasant country, and came to this place, which is called Napa Hall, and it's the ancestral home of the Metcalfe family. Again, unfortunately, I didn't inherit it, but it is described as probably the finest and least spoilt fortified manor house in the north of England. And I say, I didn't inherit it. I went on from there and ended up in Whitby, which where Captain Cook came from, of course. And where I did my surveying courses when I was at university. We had to survey on top there by the old abbey, and if you misbehaved and got it wrong, I haven't got a pointer, but you might just be able to see a road coming down from the abbey and down into the town. There was 199 steps, and if you misbehaved, you had to survey all the way down the steps and all the way back up again, which was normally no fun. But I went on from there and ended up in York, the capital of the county, and the significance of the steam train is twofold. The important thing being that it holds the world speed record for a steam train, 126 miles an hour, set in 1938. Set a steam train speed record. There's a very faint connection, family connection to it, because my father was a draftsman in the railway engineering offices in Doncaster, where that thing was designed. We also went on a little bit further and went to the cathedral, York Minster, which is a splendid building. But we marched up to the front door and they wanted $20 just to go in, which I thought was rude for a cathedral. It ought to be free access to people, even though I know it costs a lot of money to maintain them. But to charge an entry fee to a cathedral seemed to me to be quite wrong.
That's only in recent times.
It's fairly recent, yeah. But you know, I thought it was, well, I didn't agree with it, so I didn't go in. But then we started doing a little bit more travelling and went to the local airport to fly to Amsterdam, which is a 1-hour flight. And it took 3 hours to get through security, from 7 o'clock till 10 o'clock in the morning. And then we flew to Amsterdam and took the train down from the airport to the Amsterdam station, which was a splendid building. The important thing at the time was it did have a toilet. And as I was seeking for such a facility at the time, I went along there, and lo and behold, I could only get in by using a €1 coin, which is $2. But it did give me, I put my coin in and it opened the gate and let me in. It gave me a little paper slip so I could have a second one later on. it was still $1. And we got on the cruise ship to go down the Rhine from there. Rhine was very comfortable, the ship was very comfortable, but when I went to the bar, having had a bad day, including paying $1 to go through. So went and had a brandy and dry, it cost me $30. So it was the first and last out there. We didn't see a single tulip in Holland. Anyway, got on the boat and sailed away down the Rhine. And, you know, the usual thing, you've seen pictures of this sort of thing before, I'm sure. And eventually ended up in Cologne and went with my cell phone, which had on it one of those little black square things, you know, that you see everywhere, which was supposed to be the receipt for my Eurail pass. So I went to the Eurail place and said, you know, I've got this receipt thing on my, please give me my pass. And they said, no, that is your pass. So I thought, well, that's going to be fun when I get on a train with that, because I'm an incompetent with electronic things. But it was the pass. So we kept on down the Rhine, went down past all the castles and so on, a little bit into Salzburg, which is one of my favourite cities, very attractive city, although they do get some ruffians, whoops, some ruffians there. Oh, sorry. I don't know why it did that. They do get some ruffians. You can see one with the Yorkshire flat cap in the foreground there. And on into the end of the journey, which was in Basel, or Basel. That was our first train ride, apart from the fact that it cost us $66 for a 15-minute taxi ride to get to the train. We went along the train down to Lucerne, one of the Golden Pass scenic routes, which was very nice. And the train guards, the Swiss train guards, had no problem. I pulled up my phone and they just said, okay, click. They showed my phone to their phone and said, you're legitimate, away you go. So we spent a couple of days in Interlaken and went up the local train up the Jungfrau, but not right to the top because it's 11,000 feet, which might have been a bit much. But saw plenty of snow and ice. And then went on from there to Marseille. We got the TGV from Lyon, our first experience of 300 kilometers an hour. But the French conductor had no idea what to do with the Eurail ticket on my phone. So he just shrugged and left us to it. We got to Marseille where it was raining. It didn't improve on first impressions because we had to get some euros. So we went to the first bank. They said, no, we don't do currency exchange. We tried Western Union. They said, we'll only change Swiss francs into euros. And I got Australian dollars or British pound, obviously. Went to the third bank and they said, oh yes, there's an automatic teller just down the corner, it'll do it for you with the credit card. It would have done if it had been working, which it wasn't. So I went on a little bit further and eventually found a little hole in the corner place which did have auto tellers in it, and apart from the fact I nearly lost the fingers off my right hand in the thing, we got some money. And we went on and went up to the Basilique Notre Dame, which is, you know, very attractive place, very high up, and so on. Something's not slightly. We then got to Monaco, where Pat had always wanted to go to Monaco to see the casino. So we had another train experience. We went to the station. We had to book to get on the TGV to go from Marseille to Nîmes, I think, and then change to a local train, and change to another local train to get to Monaco. But we had to book a seat. So we went and booked a seat. It took about an hour after we'd finished queuing and so on and so forth on a very wet evening in Marseille. And we got the seat in coach 11. And they said, go to where it says W on the platform, and that's where the coach will arrive. So we walked across and walked along the platform from A up to W and stood there. The train came in, and coach 12, which we were in, was the first carriage on the train, which of course was at A, right down the other end of the platform. So we whisked down to that and got on it. We got on the train, got to Nîmes, we had to change trains. We pulled into the platform, and there's a crowd of people. The platform was packed, and an empty train with all the doors locked, which was supposed to be going to Nice, which is where we were going to go. So we get off the train, at which time there's some sort of French announcement, and everybody else on the platform got on the train that we just got off. So we leapt back on that on the assumption that they had just made an announcement that the train on platform 1 won't be going, but the train on platform 2 will be going. Leapt onto that and eventually got to Monaco. The best thing about that was we walked out of the railway station onto the street, and there was a bus stop with a hop-on, hop-off tourist bus just about to depart. So we leapt onto that and sort of did the tour around Monaco. Went up to the casino. Whoops, something weird's happening, I'm afraid. And now it won't go back. Come on, you. Okay. Now, for some reason, bear with me. There.
Yep.
Got to the casino. I'm in the foreground in the anorak because it had been very wet the day and cold the day before. Walked up a steep hill to this place. It was fairly warm, so I went and sat down in their outdoor cafe. Cost us $30 for a cup of coffee and a beer. And the guy at the gate was looking down his nose at me all the time. I don't think he thought I didn't really look the sort of person who should be drinking coffee outside the Monte Carlo casino.
Yeah.
And Pat went in and had a look round. She had to pay €17 to get in, but then they gave her a ticket which she could use to gamble with for €10 or something. She worked it up to $30 or €30, but then lost a lot, so we came out.
The luck wasn't changing.
Yeah, that's right. The next thing we did from Marseille was to go back to Paris. We were booked in carriage 1 this time, having queued an hour the night before to make the booking, because you had to have a booking. But when the train came in, and we'd gone to point A on the platform, of course, expecting carriage 1 to arrive at point A, what arrived at point A was carriage 11. So I thought, oh, well, we've got it asked about, we'll go 11, 10, 9, but it didn't. It went 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Well, we gave up at 18, said there's something crazy here, it must have been a mistake, it should have been 11, not 1 on our ticket. So we walked back down to 11 and said, you know, we've got this mucked up ticket, we need to get on 11. And the guys promptly said, no, you can't do that. Carriage number 1 is at the end of the train, you just have to keep going. So I had to, more or less at that stage, run the whole length of this damn train with a suitcase, and that's not a clever thing to do. But I survived, and we got to the Gare de Lyon in Paris. We had to change there to the local train, but I've got this cell phone with a little black and white square thing on, which is my ticket. I tried to get off the platform. There's an electronic gate, like the Mikey gates in Melbourne, and it won't look at this thing. So I can't get through the gate to get off the platform until some young Frenchman came along and said, what are you trying to do? We said, this, that, the other. He said, oh, follow me. He flashed his card over, his Mikey card, equivalent over it, and the gates opened, and he jumped into them and held them open until we walked off the train. That was very well, but to get back onto the platform, to get onto the next train to go to where we were staying in suburban Paris, again, we couldn't get through the thing because it wouldn't recognise the electronic ticket. So it had its moments, but eventually we got to our destination, which was to stay with a friend of ours in Paris. And of course we went to the Eiffel Tower. Well, that's Brussels for some reason. Why did he go to?
Back in England.
I'm back in England now, yeah. You can't say you're not getting your money's worth here. I can't. Some little things come for you. It says return to previous slide, but it comes into wonder. Oh, okay, I'm back. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, it's just on trouble. That's, believe it or not, the Eiffel Tower, not Blackpool Tower in England. But we went to, if you ever go, or next time you go, I should say, go to the Trembleur, which is this restaurant here, which is at the Gare de Lyon. And it's where the VIPs who were travelling on the original Orient Express used to go and dine before they got on the train and got whizzed off to Turkey or somewhere or other. But it's a splendid building. The food wasn't too much out of the box, it was pretty good. But all the scenes that are painted on the ceiling were scenes that you saw from the train, from the Orient Express as you travelled across Europe. So it's a very nice place to go to if you want to go there. Try again. Okay, we did get through Brussels, again that well-known layout in the foreground there, and we got there mainly because the totally inept carry-on. When we came back from Marseille to Paris, the longest train trip we did in the whole journey, the guys didn't ask for our tickets, didn't look at our tickets or anything, so we had a spare day, so we went to Brussels. And from Brussels took the what they call it, the
Eurostar.
Eurostar, that's right, under the Channel and back into UK. And then had another train trip down to Plymouth. Now that train was the worst one of the lot. There's a train, used to be called the Devonian. It runs from Newcastle to Plymouth, you know, across the full length and width of Britain almost. It's been doing it for donkey's years. So we were booked on the midday flight. It was a first-class rail card, and you're supposed to get lunch on the train, and you know, all very flash. The first problem was when we got to this, we got the British rail pass, which was a piece of paper. And to get onto the station, you had to go through an electronic gate, which didn't recognise a piece of paper. So you had to find a porter or somebody to let you through. And the guy we got said, oh, he'd never seen a rail pass like this before, could he have a look at it? So we got quite chatty with him. We got on to get on this train. It used to be called the Devonian. It's not called that anymore. But we had a first-class ticket. We were in carriage G. And he came up to us and said, oh, if you're in carriage G, stand by number 6 on the platform. That's where the carriage will stop. So we went out and stood on 6. About 10 minutes later, he came out and said, the train's been delayed and they've also changed the carriages around, so you'll be at number 1 on the platform, which was coach A, number 1. So we went down to 1 and we stood there for a bit. Then there was an announcement over the tannoy, no, the train's running later, there's been another reconfiguration, you need to be back at number 6. So we went back to number 6. A few minutes later we got another announcement, you should be back, the train's been reconfigured again, you should be back at point A. So we were back down to the other end of the platform. The train came in, it was carriage A that appeared in front of us, not carriage G. So we set off to go back, and a very officious railway station master or somebody came up and said, no, you can't do that, we're running late, we're trying to get the train back in time, get into carriage A. So we got into carriage A, we managed to find a seat, and we rolled off out of the station. So we said, okay, what's for lunch? No, lunch is on Sunday. No, but hang a minute, I paid for a first-class ticket on this train so I could have a comfortable get on and off and also have lunch. No lunch. So I said, well, okay, what about a drink? Oh no, we haven't got any drinks in this carriage. Why not? Well, they're in the first-class carriage, which is carriage G. I said, yeah, but this is a first-class carriage, carriage A. Where's my drink? No drinks. So I was not in the sunniest of tempers by the time we got down to the thing. But we got as far as Birmingham, halfway. There was an announcement. The train will be split in 2 in Birmingham, and only the second half, carriage G onwards, which we were booked into carriage G, but we were actually in carriage A, only carriage G onwards will be going to Plymouth. So people in carriage A who want to go to Plymouth have got to get off, run down the train and get back on quick, because it's running late, they're pushing it through as fast as they can, get onto G to get to where you're going. So we pile off the train with suitcases, run down the train, get to carriage G, There's a bloke standing in the doorway in a full uniform. I said, "Is this carriage G, where we have to go to get to Plymouth?" He said, "Yes." So I said, "Right." So I heaved up my suitcase. He said, "You can't get on here, you have to get on down there." And I thought, this guy's paid for the railway to look after his passengers. He should have at least got out of the way and said, "Get on," or he should have got off and lifted my case on. But no, we had to go down to the other end and turn around and walk back up the internal passage in the train to everywhere. We got to Plymouth in pouring rain and had to walk to the railway station. But when we got to Plymouth, we thought, well, it'd be great. We'd been moved to carriage G and the train was split in two at Birmingham, so we'd be right up the front of the platform. Oh no, carriage A, B and C was still there. So we had to get off, and because it's a long train and a short platform, we had to walk in the pouring rain till we got down to carriage A to get off the station and get to the hotel. Never again. I'm still wondering why, if this train's been running for so long as a 6-carriage unit, why isn't it A, B, C, D, E, F instead of A, B, C, G, H, I? Anyway, that was the worst one of the lot. And the worst thing was we had to come back on the same route when we came back from Cornwall. Obviously, we'd ended up in Plymouth, and I rather like the display in the museum there, which is figureheads from old sailing ships. Quite a collection of them. They also had a stuffed woolly mammoth. So if you're desperate to see a stuffed woolly mammoth, go up to Plymouth, but don't go by train. We went on from there into Cornwall. I went to collect the car, and they said, "Oh, sorry sir, your car's not available, it was delayed." So I started to chunter, and they said, "Don't worry, don't panic, we'll upgrade." Oh, well, that's very nice, but they gave me a Mercedes, and I was driving down these roads, and unfortunately, in this sort of vegetation covered down the side here, there was the occasional rock sticking out the size of your head, sort of thing. And I thought, if I touch one of those in this Mercedes, it's going to cost me more than the whole holiday. So I was sort of driving, but sort of tucked in like that, you know, to get through. But we had a roam up and down Cornwall. And got COVID, which we think was a French version of it, but we got COVID. We went to the local hospital. We thought we'd better do a decent thing, front up, say we've got COVID, find out what the local rules and regulations were. Went to the local hospital, went inside, there was a big glass reception counter sort of a thing. Went up to that, and the girl came across and said, "Can I help you, sir?" I said, "Yes, I've got COVID." She leapt about 18 feet backwards and said, "Go outside, go outside, go outside. We'll send the doctor out." So I went outside. Fortunately, it was a day like today. It wasn't, you know what, it came with rain. And eventually, after about 15 minutes, 2 nurses came out. They were dressed in the full plastic outfit with big face guards on and everything, and they handed me a sheet of paper which more or less said, "If you've got COVID, go home and stay home." And nothing else. No, you know, do we test you, or do we do anything else, any special regulations? No, just go home and stay home. So we drove down a few roads like that with me thinking, we don't touch something on the side, and we might enjoy it. But the next thing was to set off to come back, and we actually went to Launceston, which is in Cornwall, which rather surprised me. But it was an interesting little spot. And then went for another short flight. Let's get past. Make sure I just get my bit side. We flew from Gatwick to Bergen. We couldn't get a hotel at Gatwick, so we had to buy one about, I don't know, 20k away, I think it was. But eventually got to Gatwick, flew to Bergen, and went on a 4-night cruise along the Norwegian coast, which was, when the first day we set off was very misty, and we couldn't see very much. But the second day, the sun came out, and we went to a town called Alison, which was rebuilt with the help of Kaiser Wilhelm apparently. After all the
Steve.
it's infested with trolls.
How are you?
And,
David
I had
Jones.
some difficulty.
Nice to see you.
I had to leave that one behind.
Good. How are you?
We
Won't be
went on
long.
from there.
John Doherty, who
Up the
organised
coast.
it, John couldn't be
Because-
here.
I thought we might have stuffed up.
No, you didn't. You're spot on.
And again,
Yeah. So we'll get you, once we're finished.
Because the Arctic Circle,
John's finished. We'll get you set up,
which is
and we're streaming this as a
an indicator on the
Interesting.
mountain there, map the
It's,
Arctic
this
Circle.
is how we're doing a trial.
We flew travelling on Norway Day, so we got a champagne breakfast with the captain.
Go to different partners,
Um,
clubs and other clubs.
Terrific.
And,
So
a lot of people
you're going to
dressed up in
focus.
costume and
I
so
mean,
on and
obviously,
so forth.
you'll tell us a bit about what you
And
do in your
had,
business.
A very interesting trip along the coast
Yep.
with lots of scenery like that.
Skiing. Yep.
And how not to lose all
We
your-
then flew back to the UK and went for another train journey.
I'll bet,
We went
I'll
from
bet.
London
Yeah.
back up to Yorkshire, no problem. Walked onto the train.
Yep.
But how much money
We were in seats 36.
Yeah, because
and
they get
37
into
when we got on the
online
train, the
banking, I
highest
suppose.
seat
Yeah,
number,
yeah.
sorry, 37, 38, the highest seat number in the
Yeah,
compartment.
we'll
36.
set you up.
So we pointed this out to the guard and said, "You've got a short train here." we're missing a seat."
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, he
We've
shuffled
got
us
a
round and
projector.
found a
We'll,
seat.
we'll give you
We had
a
very
couple of
nice
minutes
trip.
once
No.
John finishes to
Spent a
set up.
couple of days in Edinburgh.
Yep.
And then set off to come back with a train which runs right across the.
He's doing the
Very
streaming.
attractive seat.
He's got a laptop on.
So we got him at
on the
6:30
rostrum.
for a ride to
Okay.
the station to catch the
Good.
7:30
Thanks,
train
Steve.
to Glasgow, which was to connect to a 10:35 train to Carlisle, to connect to the 13:04 train, which went across the
Okay.
dales and moors back to where we were staying. We had a 30-minute connect time in Glasgow, so we rushed out of the station to the taxi rank and said, "Take us out of the one station."
The boys are here, so we'll get a few minutes.
Yeah, well, this is then.
Okay.
Okay. Rushed out of the station, leapt in the taxi to go to the other station to catch the other train. The taxi said, "No, we're not running in the city today, there's a parade in the city, the streets are all closed." Which wasn't true, because we set off to walk and found round the corner there was still traffic running about. But anyway, we walked to the station, get into the station, and there's a big sign that says the 10:35 train is cancelled. There's a bus replacement, which is another 3 or 4 blocks down the street. So we rushed down these 3 or 4 blocks, leapt onto the train, onto the bus rather, got the last 2 seats on the bus, sat down, and he set off. He's got a roof light over where I was sitting, which was open. Because of COVID regulations, they had to have it open. But it was raining. So I sat there in sort of dripping rain for 2 hours whilst we drove from Glasgow to Carlisle and got to the station to find that the train that we booked on, which was the 13:04 train, had been cancelled. But the 12:04 train was running, and at that time it was 12 o'clock. So we had 4 minutes to get off this bus, find our way to the station, get onto the station, and get onto the train. But we'd just been on a train for an hour, walking across Glasgow for half an hour, and on a bus for 2 hours. So not unnaturally, I was beginning to stand with my legs crossed and hope that something would happen before very much longer. But rushed onto the station. Okay, there's the train, there's the toilet. So we both rushed into the toilet. I rushed out, got to the train, and the guard said, "Get in quick, we're off." I said, I can't. I'm waiting for my partner to reappear. He turned around and said, "Hang on a minute, Joe!" And Joe, who was the engine driver, who happened to be standing on the platform about 3 carriages down, said, "Right, mate." So they held up the train for us and we got on. It was a very good service, the best train service we had in the whole trip. What else happened after that? Oh, well, we got into London, we had all sorts of strife with the tube. We got on the tube to go to our hotel. The station was closed because they were rebuilding the escalators. So we had to go to another station and then find our way back. We set off the next day to go somewhere, and there was a signal fault. We sat on the train for 20 minutes until they decided that wasn't going to go anywhere else. We got on the train going to Wimbledon. They made an announcement, this train will no longer go to Wimbledon, it's going to Richmond. So we got to get on that one and get on another one. And we had all sorts of fun until the very last thing we did was to go to Manchester Airport, stay overnight because we had an 8:30 flight. We were told it was a 4-hour check-in. So we had to get to the airport at 4:30 a.m. to leap on the plane and fly home. Thanks, Mr. President.
Thanks, John. Yeah,
How about that one? To switch it off if nothing else.
and just watch those chords. Well, that was terrific. Thanks, John.
Had its moments.
Whatever it was, John, it wasn't dull by the sound of it. It wasn't dull.
Yeah.
The weather might have been a bit dull from time to time, but the trip wasn't. And we're pleased to see you both back safe and sound. John, you just want your microphone. So the guys are here, Steve and his colleague are going to give us a very interesting presentation on computers for seniors and how not to get caught and what to look out for and things of that nature. So they're going to set up, and whilst they're setting up, we're going to do a sing-along with Uncle Noel. And page 1 of the songbooks, which will be distributed by Robbie, and the three on page 1. Boys, come up. You guys can get set up whilst we do this little sing-along.
Thank you.
John, do you want to grab your computer?
That's a club computer.
Oh, that's the club one, is it? Okay. Yeah, we'll just see. The boys might want to use theirs at Cole. Just.
There's 2 bags.
Yeah, one will be speaking basically. So we'll get a microphone on. Yeah, same as John. Yeah. I don't think we do. Will you both, Steve? Will you both be speaking, or be mainly yourself?
I'll just mainly Steve.
Steve. Okay.
Because you can
Yeah. I'll give him this. Steve, can you put that microphone, just clip that microphone on for us? That's for the streaming, so just clip it on your shirt, that'd be great. All right, have we got the keyboard? Ready to go, Noel? Clementine and the first 3 verses. Away we go. Clementine and lofty miner and his daughter Clementine. My darling, oh my darling, oh my darling Clementine, thou art lost and gone forever, dreadful sorry Clementine. And she was Larry, and her shoes were number 9, hearing boxes without topses, sandals wear for Clementine. Oh my darling, oh my darling, oh my darling Clementine, thou art lost and gone forever, dreadful sorry Clementine. Ducklings to the water every morning just at 9, hit her foot against the splinter, fell into the foaming brine. All right, now what's the next one? Here's a health unto Her Majesty. Here's a health unto Her Majesty, la 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 la. Conversion to her enemy with a la 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 la. And he who would not pledge her health, we'd wish him neither wit nor wealth, nor yet to hang himself. with a fa la 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 la. Homage to Her Majesty with a fa la 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 la. Says to all her policy with a fa la 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 la. And he would not drink her health. He says he neither health nor wealth. With a fa la 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 la. La 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 la. Righto, the Irish. When Irish eyes are smiling, sure it's like a morning spring. In the tilt of Irish laughter, you can hear the angels sing. When Irish hearts are happy, all the world seems bright and gay. And when Irish eyes are smiling, sure they steal your heart away. Bravo, bravo. Books back. There we are.
Yes, we should have raised song too, I think. That's good. Oh, that's good. Okay, keep what you think and write what you think. Keep what you want.
While the boys are setting up, just a few words. We've got Steve Pilger and his colleague with us, and Steve has a business called Stev Computer, which is a home-based company operating out of Melbourne, and it's been operating since 2000 and been providing goods and computer services to clients on a personal basis, and with a real emphasis on service, but also they're involved in assembling computers at their Blackburn workshop, and also in servicing and maintenance, and in particular in being able to respond quickly to anyone who has a computer problem, so that there's a minimal time before they can respond. They can respond pretty quickly. They offer also warranty and guarantees in support of those offered by manufacturers, and they've got staff members who specialise in all the main computer hardware, Microsoft, Apple, NBN, Telstra, antennas, etc. But no doubt Steve will tell us a little bit about the business, but the focus is on computers and seniors in terms of the traps, the problems that can arise, the consequences, how we can watch out for them, how we can avoid them, and what can be done if there's a problem. So when Steve's ready, he'll take it from there.
I'm good.
All right, thanks, Steve.
Is there anybody here who can take some photos?
Taking photos.
Is there a good photographer?
Yeah, anyone take a photo? Colin will do a photo. Colin?
Take a few.
Yep.
Where's Colin?
There he is.
Yeah. Just turn it on.
Yep.
There.
We'll be able
Push
to
the
take
big
photos
button.
off.
Just take as many.
Take them off here as well.
Of you and
Everything. Everyone, the members, yeah, everyone.
We can take them off.
Go for your life.
Steve, we can take them off the screen here too.
That's good, thank you. We just got the consent from the audience.
Hi everybody, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep, okay, I'll just introduce myself. I'm Steve. Been doing computers for the last nearly 25 years, and my background was that I was a business banker with the National Bank, and I retired quite early. I was around about early 50s and retired. There's only so much golf and tennis you can play, and so I started fixing a few friends' computers who came to me in that time. I had a sort of a major burnout, a major meltdown, and what I did in that time was get all my qualifications with Telstra and my telephone and NBN, and then the business just sort of grew from there. Dean is a qualified Microsoft engineer, and he's been with me for over 17 years, pretty well right from the inception, and we work together well. We have other specialised staff as well, and well, that's us. So we'll get on with a few slides once we get going. Okay, Dean?
They didn't feed the mouse.
Oh, sorry?
This is the slow computer.
Oh, okay, the computer's very slow. I suppose we could swap it out. HDMI? Yes.
Yeah.
Could we put the recording on hold?
No, it's a continuous stream. It's not just a recording.
Because what we might do is, your computer is very slow. We can. Oh, here we go. We'll be right.
It's good.
Okay. We do this as a community service, and the main reason that I do this is I like to give something back for all the things that I've received.
Very good.
Yep. Okay, we're off, Dean.
Sounds like I used to get some.
Okay. Well, I can give you the other
I'll see
computer.
okay.
Okay, that's where we're based in Blackburn, not too far away. We're mobile, and we also do house calls. So what happens is that if there's a meltdown or something goes wrong with your computer, we're quite readily able to come and support you. We also work in the workshop, and anyway, that's where we are, Blackburn. Right, today we're going to be talking about computers for seniors and how not to lose your money. Scams, hoaxes and threats. We'll see what a huge problem this has been. You might think, oh yes, this will never happen to me, but I have to tell you that you are the target. You are the target. Now, how many of us have computers? Just a show of hands, which is just about everybody. Ooh. Out of all that, laptops, who have laptops? Yep, good. And what about Apple Mac? How many Apple Mac people do we have? Oh, got a few. Yes, just a comment about Apple Mac. Apple Mac is a small part of the market. They hold around about 5 to 8% of the market in computers. But when it comes to tablets and phones, iPhones, all of that stuff, huge. They really have the market blitz. But in computers, not so much. We don't see a lot of Macs getting hacked. We don't see a lot of problems there, and we'll see why that will be a bit later on. Okay. All right. Now, why were you the sitting duck and why are you the target? You can read the screen quite readily, and the first thing is that our generation, we're paper-based. If I give you a phone number to write down, or give you a phone number, you'll write it on a piece of paper, same as I would. The next generation, they won't. They'll put that into their phone. So we're used to being paper-based. Second thing is that we're wealthy. You might not think you're wealthy. You might think, oh yes, I'm on a pension. I haven't got any spare money. But if you own a motor car, you will be in the top 1% of the richest people in the world. 1%. And the reason is that the majority of people, billions of people, won't save up enough money to even buy a push bike. That's the position. Not all of us are computer savvy. We didn't grow up in the computer age. Young kids, our grandkids and kids, they seem to be very intuitive, and what they can do is they just pick up a keyboard, away they go. But not us. We had to learn it all step by step. We're a trusting generation as well. We generally trust each other on face value. If we meet somebody new, we generally trust them until they let us down. And we invest in tomorrow. We get involved in committees, and we get involved in working bees. And, we support each other. A lot of us are vulnerable because we've had a loss of a life partner, and that leaves us vulnerable. And we'll talk about these vulnerabilities a bit later on, because these hackers go for our weaknesses. Health issues is the other one. Many people will be suffering from health issues. And one example of that was when I was with the bank, with the NAB, my general manager, who should have known better, he'd been hacked 3 times. 3 times. And he lost thousands. And it wasn't until the 3rd time he'd been hacked, his daughter took his computer off him, and the reason was they found out that he'd had Alzheimer's. And he couldn't remember the first 2 times that he'd been hacked. So he went through the same thing, and they lost quite a lot of money. Okay, today we're going to cover hoaxes and scams, how to look after your computer, and last of all, a little bit about security. So we'll get into it. There's millions of hoaxes, millions. We would spend all day going through hoaxes, but I'll just identify a few of them. The current one that's going around at the moment is all about Norton.
Yeah.
Norton or McAfee.
Yep.
You'll get these pop-up things on your computer, drive you nuts.
Yep.
Very hard to get rid of. And
Do they actually exist, Steve? Norton?
Yeah, Norton is a company. Yeah, very big. Antivirus.
Semantic.
Norton's Symantec.
Yeah.
And so they are a real company, as McAfee is as well. And the scammers have used their name and said, yes, click on this and renew. And a lot of people do. But we get clients who ring us and say, is this real? And I say, well, no, because we use another antivirus called Kaspersky, which some of you will have heard of. And I say, well, why would you want 2 antiviruses? What happens with 2 antiviruses, it doesn't make your computer twice as safe, it just makes it twice as slow, because they kill each other trying to check everything. So, hoaxes, priority treatment, COVID-19 was a good one. You can go to the top of the list and get immunised. All you have to do is pay me $250 and we'll put you on the top of the list. That was another hoax. So you might as well take your $250 and flush it down the toilet, because that's about the same result that you'd get. False security warnings saying your PC is at risk. Get plenty of them. Online shopping bargains, and if it's too good to be true, it's too good to be true. Okay, there's missing children and charity hoaxes, and remember that these people who do the hoaxes steal identities. They steal the identities of recognised charities, and just because you get an email that says it's from World Vision or another charity, it may not be. So you need to be very careful, and I'll show you a bit later on how you can pick whether it's a real one or a dud. Cryptocurrency, Dean's a bit of an expert on cryptocurrency. Do you want to mention anything about that?
Okay. Cryptocurrency scams are the newer versions. So what they do is they represent people like Australia Post or Telstra, and they get you to click on a link. Now what that link does that actually downloads a fake bill or a fake transaction form or something like that. And what that'll do, that'll actually encrypt your whole user directory, which means basically all your photos, documents will become encrypted. The key gets sent off to them, and they basically hold it for ransom until you pay a certain amount of money. It used to be really cheap. It used to be like about $300, which is usually part of Bitcoin. Now they actually are asking for thousands. They held the US electricity grid hostage for $30 million. And they actually paid it. But luckily enough, they got that back because they investigated it and they tracked the people. Most of the time they don't. One of the huge ones at the moment is actually Bitcoin scammers. So where they're doing, a lot of people are getting invested into cryptocurrency because it's worth lots of money. They can make lots of money, like triple, quadruple, whatever it is. The problem is though, you invest with these guys, they just take your money. So they take your Bitcoin and just go elsewhere. One of the largest ones was $1.6 billion they got from just people like you know, that want to make a little bit of money, you know, in their retirement, things like that. But cryptocurrencies, the crypto encryption, they're the worst ones. They're basically, you can't fix your computer. It's basically a dead dull. So then you need us, essentially.
Okay.
There we go.
Thanks, Steve. Okay, the next one is Facebook. Drop down to Facebook. There's millions and millions of fake identities on Facebook. And just because you get a friend request that says, oh, hello, I'm Bill, be my friend, he may have used the real name. In fact, I had my identity last week was scammed, and it came up with Polgar 80, and there was a message went out and said, please send me some money, because I don't know what the even reason was because I didn't see the message. But somebody rang me up and said, was this really from you? And I said, no. And so it's just very, very easy to be scammed on Facebook. One thing with Facebook is that our kids used to start off on Facebook, and then we started using Facebook, especially ladies and females like to keep in touch with the kids, and we all started using Facebook. But then the kids got wise and said, oh, our grandparents and our parents are watching Facebook, we'll move on to something else. So they've gone off onto Twitter or other things, and they don't use Facebook quite as much as the older generation. Chain letters, I'll talk about chain letters and how they're used by the scammers to harvest data. Health and medical, be really careful with health and medical. Don't mess around with your health. You just do not know what you're going to be buying if you buy online and buy cheap medicine. Death hoaxes, that's a very real one, and we'll see when we look at the official figures from the government how...
They're very big on Viagra, Steve.
Viagra, yeah, I can see, they look that sort of group here.
No, but
pretty dangerous looking group.
Let's mess him up now.
Now, there are two reasons why these hoaxes happen. One is they're after money, they're after your money, and they're also after information, where they can use that information to get money. Okay, dude? Okay. Here's a few scams. Be careful when you do surveys that you will be promised a free holiday in Queensland. Mostly these sorts of things do not exist, and I generally don't do surveys. Fake charities we talked about, and there's just scam after scam after scam, and the COVID-19 one was the latest one. Now remember, down the bottom here, these people who scam us mainly come from the subcontinent, they come from Asia, and they also come from parts of Russia. They are only after one thing, and that is your money. They play on your weaknesses, and we'll look at what our weaknesses will be a bit further in. So, next one. True messages like earthquake in the Pacific, You know, they just, I don't even know why they do these things, but they come up with all these unsubstantiated things, messages. Facebook, we talked about Facebook before, fake news and oddities. Cancelling your tax file number. I nearly had my tax file number cancelled last week. And if your tax file number gets cancelled, only the tax department can do that. And people just believe it. Yeah. And a little cartoon down the bottom. Okay. Right, now be secure. So the areas that we need to look at being secure in are computer security, malware. Malware is all the adverts and things that pop up, like those McAfee ones and the Norton ones that pop up. Email security, and also to spam. And Malwarebytes is a good program that counters against that. At the end of today, I have some handouts to give you, plus a card. And if you have any queries, you'll be able to contact us. The ACCC, Australians lost over $205 million between 1st of January and May this year, 166 increase. If it was projected out, we would lose $532 million this year. So that's only this year so far. Sorry, that was in 2019. This year we're already up to 219. Sorry, we're already up to that figure, and it could go to $1 billion. Now that $1 billion is you sending your money overseas to scammers. We would receive, and we're only a tiny business. We're only a little business. We have 6 people work for us. We get about 2 or 3 scam repairs where we have to fix things up a week, and it's just epidemic at the moment. Yep. So next one. Now, who's at fault? Is it males or females? What do you think? What would you go for, males or females? All the males say females, and females say males. Yeah, but it's pretty well 50-50. Yeah, you can't really pick it, and the trend hasn't changed too much. What the scams are doing is preying on curiosity. You'll think, oh, what's this email from? Who's this from? I don't know them. I'll click on it and find out. Or greed. They're preying on greed, where you can get rich quick. All sorts of things like that. And they have identified weaknesses. These guys who are after our money are professionals. They do it for a job. They have whole call centres. Okay. Now, what age group? You'll see there's a big jump in the 50s, 55 to 64. Why do you think that would be? Anyone?
Spend more time.
Yeah, that's generally when people were retiring, and you've got money, you have got superannuation, and you may have retired and you think, oh, my superannuation's a bit low. What I'll do, I'll just put it into some quick investment where I can double it, and sure enough, you go into that investment and you'll lose it. And so that's why that is so peaked there. These are government figures, so I haven't made these up. And as it goes on, it peters out. But the interesting thing is that the young people, 25s, the 18-year-olds, they still get scammed, but not to the same degree. And the reason is that they generally don't have affordable income, or they don't have the cash. Yeah. All right, now, where is the threat going to come from? You might think, oh yes, I've got to protect my computer. It's going to come over the computer. Wrong. Most of the threat comes on the phone.
Yeah.
On your landline, on your mobile phone. Reason for that is the hackers, we call them hackers, but they're not really hackers. They get you to log in to your computer, send all your money to them, and they trick you. And they work on speed and urgency. They'll say, hurry, 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 do it very quickly. You've got to do it now. Your computer's at risk. and they really push you hard. They're very, very good at it, very, very clever and professional. But the main ones, certainly that the government have picked up, come over the phone, and we would verify that as well. People answer the phone, they let people into their computer, and can I say, don't let anyone into your computer unless you know them. We do have a remote program where we repair computers remotely. I pay about $1,000 a year to have this program, and Dean and I do a lot of repairs online rather than driving over to 2 or 3 suburbs away. We can do it remotely, but you will know us from face-to-face contact first off. So I'm saying that we're okay, we won't steal your money. The others can't guarantee. All right, now what are the top 10 ones? Investment, $328 million left Australia. People wanting to get rich. And surprisingly, this surprised me, the romance one. So what our scammers are doing is saying, well, loss of a loved one, maybe you want another partner, we'll get onto an online dating site, and not only can you get onto an online dating site and get scammed, but also you can pick up a lot of viruses there. There's a couple of different places where you can get viruses. One is an online dating site, another one's an R-rated site, and the third one is the dark web. Some of you will have heard of the dark web, which is like the black market of the internet. That's where you buy drugs and sex and rock and roll. And payment redirection. Now, payment redirection, the government have a department, ACCC, which is the area of the banking system and monetary system of the Reserve Bank, whereby any money over $10,000 that leaves Australia has to be accounted for. So that when you go overseas, you'll be asked a question on your immigration forms, are you carrying any more than $10,000? Because the government doesn't want all this money floating around. So what happens here is payment redirection and false billing is you'll get a phone call, they'll say, okay, we want you to use your bank account and we'll transfer money through it, and we will give you a cut of that. You'll get a couple of $1,000 maybe. In return, they'll have cleared the money. They'll give you all sorts of reasons. However, that is fraught with huge danger, and the worst that will happen is that you'll finish up in prison. You'll get a phone call from the federal police, and next thing you'll know, you'll be locked up because you'll be mixed up in some sort of people smuggling, some sort of sex racket, or drugs. And it's just all bad, all bad. So be really careful with that one. All roads lead to your bank account. Now, don't go out and throw yourself under a bus when you leave here. It's not all doom and gloom. What we'll do is just make you prepared so that you know what to look out for. Don't go home and chop your computer up. It'll be okay. Threats to life. Now that was an interesting one. I didn't think that was so high, but apparently this comes out of Nigeria with the Nigerian heavies. There's quite a lot of that goes on where people's lives get threatened if they don't pay up. Remote access scams. Also, going back to number 4, what happens there is if you get a scammer on the phone and you don't do what they say, they'll start swearing at you, and they really do. They go nuts and really use some pretty foul language. And if they get really, really nasty, they'll lock your computer. They can lock it remotely, and that's not so good. Online shopping is another one. Be very careful with online shopping. And I've just put a big note down the bottom there, online dating. So just be very cautious with that. Classified I don't know what that classified was. Anyway, we'll move on. Health
I think
medical.
it's the fake ones that go into like eBay and things like that. So,
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Classified ads. Yes.
Yeah, so.
Yep. Yep. Classified ads that are fake. Identity theft. Has anybody had their identity stolen here? It's a fate worse than death. Somebody's walking around with your name, your address, your credentials, maybe a credit card in your name, and off they go. And very hard to find them, incredibly hard to clear your own name, very, very difficult. And unexpected property lottery prizes. Now, let's look at what's the worst that can happen to you. Your hair won't go orange and stick up like that. It'll remain grey like mine. And we'll have a look at the worst thing that can happen. It starts off with just being annoyed. You'll start off with loss of time. You may have to just refix your computer yourself, and it's only minor. If it's a bit worse, you may have to bring your computer into us. We'll clean it and service it. Downtime, you'll have a very slow computer. They may use your computer there, and you can become a mule whereby they will use your computer as part of their system to send heaps and heaps of messages to other people. Yep, and they get lots and lots of computers online and get a huge network going. So you don't want to be a mule. You get your Facebook profile cloned. I had mine done a week ago. Stolen identity. Can you get your photo taken? That's possible. Computer lock we talked about. You can lose all your data, all your photos, all your life memories very easily without even trying. If they lock your hard drive, the hard drive is where all the storage is inside the computer. If they lock that up, very, very difficult to crack it open. Huge losses. I don't know what's the greatest one we've had. 30-something thousand. Yeah, 30,000. But it's pretty common. 20-30,000 is quite common, and we probably get 2-3 a week at the moment. And last of all, fate worse than death. The federal police will turn up, and it's happened. This has happened. I know people that have been locked up. This one here is a sample of. If you get that on your computer, you might as well kiss yourself on the backside and say goodbye because your computer's locked. It looks very official. The American coat of arms, or pseudo, doesn't really mean anything, but what it's saying there is your computer's locked, send us some money, and I can't remember how much this one was.
$200.
$200,
Yeah.
and we will unlock your computer. Well, you might as well take your $200, walk into the bathroom, flush it down the toilet, because that's the amount of effort or result you'll get, because these people will not unlock your computer. You'll have a dead computer and it will become a brick. So that's through clicking on one link. One simple click will get you that. You just need to be very, very careful. We'll show you how to look at the links, and these links are quite important. Now, here's an email, and it was from Norton, funnily enough. Now, this is a fake one. I think this is one that went to my wife, who doesn't even have Norton. And the first thing we see up the top, which is hard to read, is up there. It says it's from Tresor at imp.fr. What's it? Anybody know what FR is? France? Okay. Norton in France. Is that going to be right? Probably not. So that address there is definitely not Norton. It's from Bill Bloggs, somebody, maybe in India, who knows. The second thing is it says the safe status is suspended, so that's a contradiction. Down here it says, oh, you're entitled to an 89% discount for 1 year. 89%. Man, that's the bargain of the year. And then renew your membership. Now, in this case, we didn't even have a membership. Then you can unsubscribe. Now, if we click on that, that's called a hyperlink. Anything with the line underneath it is called a hyperlink, and that, if you click on that, hell is probably going to break loose. I wouldn't be going to click on that if it was my computer. I would not do anything here except delete this email. And I suggest you do that too. Delete it and then delete it out of your rubbish bin. If you click on this renew membership, that's also a link. As well as that, both of those will lead to the same area, and it will both lead to disaster. So they're some of the things to look at for an email. We'll show you some more in a minute. Here's another one. Here's another one from PayPal. Doesn't that look good? PayPal. It's a great little logo. And anybody here use PayPal?
Yeah.
It's a good system. It is really a great system. Send money overseas. It's really, really good. This one's got a few errors on it though, but it's got a PayPal fake address up the top there. That's not a real PayPal address. I guess you would have to be on your toes to pick that up, but the real address is over here where it says www.paypal. That's the real address. Down here, you will see a spelling mistake and a link, so we stay away from that link. And down here, there's another spelling mistake. Yeah, we don't get spelling mistakes on real things, generally. Now, Dean picked this one up. This is a genuine Microsoft scammer form. Dean picked this up with a customer, and he was helping a customer, and she was halfway through filling the form out, and she was down to the credit card details where we're putting in the credit card details. And Dean ripped her computer off her and said, "What are you doing, woman?" And
I didn't say that.
No, but he should have. Now, up there it says Microsoft. Now, Microsoft is $1 billion trillion company. Microsoft would not put a form out like that, which has come from like a state school student could have come up with something better than that. That is not a professional sort of form, and what they're after there is credit card details. They may say, look, we will charge you $15 to look at your computer and get rid of any problems in it. That $15 turns into $150 by the time it hits your card, and then pretty soon it's $1,500. And they will just keep taking money from it once they get that credit card. And also the CVV, that's that 3-digit number on the back of your card. Very important that you don't give that out willy-nilly. Okay, next one. Now, here's the government department. If you do get scammed, you can report it to the ACCC. ACCC keep information on scams. They track how much money leaves Australia, how many people get scammed. Now, only about, I think it's 13% of people report scams. It's a little bit like complaints. Complaints run at usually only one person in 10 will complain, the rest just leave. And so it's only the tip of the iceberg of the information that these people find. Okay, next one. All right, now what do you do to reduce your risk on email? So email, all of you use email?
Yep.
Good idea?
Yep.
Yeah, pretty well. Yep, we love email because it's nice and quick, nice and fast. I really live on email, and I live on SMS on the phone, and find that's really good. Don't download software from people you don't know. In the old days, what used to happen is that you'd get a disk. Maybe you would have got the disk that said it was from Microsoft Office, and you'd load it up on your computer, fantastic. Give it to your wife, put it on her computer, give it to your kids, give it to your friends, and there'd be like 20 versions of it. Now, Microsoft got smart. They said, we're losing a bit of money here, boys. We will only give software out for one computer, one person, one use. And so when you buy software now, Office or whatever you're going to buy, it's only one use for you. Yeah. Don't download software for fun or anything. There's valuable functions that are offered free or cheap. There is a thing called freeware. Freeware is quite good, but you really have to know what you're using. We do use some freeware in our business. Read everything when installing software, and piggyback software is something to watch out for. Piggyback software is, say you load up your antivirus and you're loading up Kaspersky. We use Kaspersky a bit. There'll be a box that's ticked and it'll say automatically load VPN. You say, VPN, if it's antivirus, it's got to be good. So you load it up and it just has the effect of slowing your computer down, and eventually they'll want a subscription for it. So it's another bit of software on the main software which has usually got a foot in the door to help them sell you something. So stay away from piggyback stuff. Don't befriend strangers on social media. I know you won't do that. And Facebook, Twitter. And look out for pop-up windows. And we've already talked about your pop-up windows with the McAfee and Broughton. Yes. All right. Keep your antivirus updated. You might think, oh yes, all these updates, they drive me nuts. But it is important that you keep it up to date. Now, we get lots of phone calls about our Kaspersky. We've been using Kaspersky about 10 years. Found when we do the checks on all the various software and all the antivirus, we found that Kaspersky is the best cover, and we use and recommend it. This isn't a paid ad, but we just find it good and it's easy to use. But keep it updated. When it runs out, it'll still keep working, but it won't update. So there's about 1,000 new viruses come out every day, but it won't pick up the new ones. So, but you'll still cover your computer for all the old ones. Okay. Licensed software. We talked about hyperlinks already. Never forward chain emails, and there'll be a slide on that in a minute. And remove the name of the people who sent you the email, and I'll talk about that now, which is this slide here. So this is one of my slides, this is my business email. If I send you an email, this is what it will look like. Then it says on there, don't help the scammers. Now, up here, there's 3 different ways up here where you can send email. The first way you send email is to. You're sending it from person A to your good friend Joe, person B, and he gets that and away he goes. The CC, the second one, which is hidden by the arrow, CC, that means carbon copy, and that means that you can send it to Joe and also Bill, and they'll both get the email and they'll both know that each one has got the email. When it gets down to the third one, the BCC, that's the blind copy. And if you put Bill and Joe both in that blind copy box down the bottom here, neither of them will know that the other one got it. So each person just sees, oh yes, it's come off a list, and there could be 2 people, there could be 20. And what that does, it stops each person knowing about other people. So they can't actually collect email addresses. Now, down the bottom here, I'll put a note here, don't forward chain letters and remove anybody's name from the bottom of the email. So if you're forwarding chain letters, these come from scammers generally, and chain letters are just used for one purpose, and that's to collect information. So what you kindly do is, then probably not around all that much these days, but you put your name and all your details on the chain letter, and the scammers get these names, they collect them, and they sell them. They sell the lists to other people. And so they can sell, Nigeria is a great one, they sell these lists quite commonly to all other people, and then they get into it and start scamming everyone. All right, now as far as your computer goes, You need to keep the computer up to date, antivirus up to date, malware. And malware is just all the annoying stuff that comes along that pops up, and we need to make sure that we keep on top of that. Be alert and look for anything unusual on your computer. Now, unusual can be hardware or software, so if your computer sort of starts making funny noises, that's something that you need to look at. And we're talking to somebody yesterday, a client, and we were talking about hard drive. Now, your hard drive will just not die instantly. It just won't go bang and die. It will give you lots of warning messages before it does. So, the things to look out for is clicking noises. If you get a little clicking noise in your computer, that could be the hard drive. Or a whirring noise. It could be that you're very slow to load up. It could be that it's buffering. Buffering is where you get the little wheel in the middle that goes around and around and around, and buffering, and it could indicate that your hard drive is going to fail. If your hard drive fails, you could well lose all your data, all your photos and all your emails, which is a fate worse than death. All right. Use strong passwords. Mostly we don't put passwords on things when we build in the workshop, because we generally have to build your computer and reboot it about 10 times. So every time we don't really want to put a password in and look up what it is, but when you get it back, use strong passwords in your computer. The hackers don't have to worry about cracking passwords too much, because they talk to you and you get them into your computer. You give them all your details, and the thing to watch out for is when you get level 2 authentication. That's where you have a mobile phone, and the bank will send you a code, usually a 6-digit code to your phone. Does anybody use level 2 authentication?
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Yep.
And whatever you do, never, never, never give that code to anybody else. And the hackers know that, and they will ask you for it. So if anybody asks you, just hang up. Monitor guest users. Now, guest users can be your grandchildren. Grandchildren are pretty good at wrecking computers. They're fearless, absolutely fearless.
Good business
And user pays. Yep. So what you can do is put them onto a separate user, and or get them their own computer. Computers have come down a lot in price from when they first started. I remember my first computer was about $4,000, and they've come down quite a lot. And have your computer serviced regularly, once a year like your car. We recommend once a year, and just get it checked over, get it cleaned out. Every time you go onto the internet, it downloads things called cookies. You might have heard of cookies. That's not the cookies you eat, but those cookies are just little files that tell the computer where you've been, and then bit by bit they all add up and slow the computer down. Now, money. Everyone loves money. We need money to live. Now, you need to know who you're dealing with, and the scammers and hackers use fake sites. They'll use fake National Bank sites. And just because it's got the National Bank logo on it, or the ANZ logo, doesn't mean to say it's going to be real. So just be a bit sceptical about what you click on. Read your bank statements. Now, I used to work in the audit area of the bank, and the ultimate auditor on your bank account is you. So, if you see anything on your bank account statement that you didn't spend, especially on your Visa, get onto the bank and get it checked out, and they will investigate it and give you an adjustment if necessary. Only give to authorised charities, established charities. Same reason, people impersonate charities, and the money that you give, you don't want to be going to Nigeria to fund some drug cartel. You want it to be going to who you intend it to. Don't buy health items. especially the Viagra. Lay off the Viagra, get it from a proper source, you'll be right. There's no get-rich schemes, and don't send money to people you don't know, and don't give out personal information or play foreign lotteries. Now, okay, Dan. Okay, now this is from the website of the National Bank. All the banks have a website as part of their internet banking, and what they do is they like to collect information on scams. So if you've been scammed or you think something's not right with your bank account, you can report it to the bank and just send it to the bank. It'll be attached to the internet banking pages of the NAB. Gives you a web address there, but it'll be on every single bank because they ultimately pay out millions and millions of dollars to these fraudsters as well. Yep. Okay, now what to do if you get caught. If you happen to get hacked, there's 5 things to do. The first thing is hang up and don't talk anymore. Hang up the phone. Be rude. Go against all your inner sense and hang up. Second thing is stay calm. It's not the end of the world. You may not have damaged yourself quite as badly as you thought. We had one yesterday. A lady came in. She let hackers into her computer, and husband had a laptop, and she was absolutely panic-stricken. Thought, the end of the world had come. But when we had a look at it, it wasn't quite as bad.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Yeah. Turn off your PC and modem, and the best thing to do is pull the plug out of the wall. Just go to the wall, pull the plug out of the wall, turn off your modem, turn off the computer. You're not going to harm the computer, you're not going to harm your modem by just pulling the plug out of the wall, and make sure all the lights go out in the computer, all the lights go out on the modem, and the hackers won't be able to get to you then. Then, the next thing you do, number 4, important, ring the bank's fraud line. On the back of your credit card, there's a number, and it said if you've been defrauded, if you've lost your credit card, if something's happened, had your card stolen, ring this number. And that's the quickest way to get onto your bank. Tell them what's happened, and they will stop your accounts. Even if it's a bit of a false alarm, it's better to be sure than sorry. Then what they will probably ask you to do is get a certificate from an authorised repairer to release your bank accounts. So you need to get your computer cleaned out, because there's no point you starting your computer up again and it's got all this tracking information that's sending the data, all your passwords out to the scammers. And then contact a repairer. I just put here, contact me. We are quite proficient at doing this. Unfortunately, we get a lot. Yeah. Okay. All right, ACCC, as I said before, they collect information on it. That's their number. And in the handout that I have here for you, I'll give you that to put on your fridge or wherever you like. And next one. This is also a new department set up by the government. This is the ACSC, and this is a federal bureau. Oh no, we don't call ourselves a bureau. It's like federal police, Australian Federal Police. They're in there, and what they do, they track the criminals. The government has actually decided to do something about this after 27 years. So they tell you what you can report on and what you should not report, and there's phone numbers there, and that's quite an interesting site to go into, and you can find it under ACSC. That's only new. That's my website. That's my old website.
That's an old one.
Yeah, I had 1,400 hits on the website. I get something like about 20,000 hits a day on now. Yeah, keep going. And that's us. So that's the end of the presentation. I'll just take some questions now,
Yeah.
if anybody's got any
Anyone,
questions.
any questions, guys, for Steve? Brian?
Don't be shy.
Hi, thank you for the talk. How do you protect yourself again when you want to do online shopping, or if you want to give money to a charity, say the Salvation Army? How do you know it is the Salvation Army?
Okay. Yep. The best thing to do is you go into their website, into Coles supermarket, or go into the Salvation Army, whoever it is. Don't click on the links that come in emails. So you actually go to them, not respond to what they send you, because the hackers will also be using false hyperlinks. And how you can tell is by running your mouse, just roll the mouse over the top of the address.
Yeah.
Yeah, just hold the mouse over the address and see what it is. And if it doesn't look right, with a bit of practice you'll be able to pick up that it's not a right address. Yeah, good question.
Thank you.
What obligation does your provider have in protecting you from malware and viruses and stuff like that?
Oh yeah, good one.
No,
So what
I thought the government brought in some new regulation.
That's for telecommunications, that's all that's for.
there is legislation coming. Yeah, there is legislation coming. At the moment, Telstra, Optus, TPG, all the big players, they have filters in their systems on their computers to stop a lot of the rubbish coming in. Also too, there is a firewall in your modem and router, and also too, there are firewalls when you get an antivirus. So there's probably at least 3 firewalls to get through, but these hackers appear to be genuine people. You can't stop the fact that you will yourself voluntarily send your money overseas. There is no way anybody can stop that. If somebody convinces you that you need to fix your computer and you want to start letting them get in there, there's no way we can stop it.
Can I say,
Yeah, good question.
Why can't you experts fix up encrypted computers?
Well, depends on what the encryption is.
I've got the PAHD or something.
Yeah.
And I'm supposed to send money in.
If it's 64-bit encryption, even the US government couldn't crack it. They had a big fight with Microsoft.
Yeah.
64 with Apple, and 64-bit encryption, impossible to crack. Pretty well.
Even for experts.
Yeah. The US government.
They can do it, but it takes like years. Like it's not like if you actually did one calculation every second, they said it would take. I think one was like 5,000 years to do 256-bit encryption, which is the highest. That's one of the highest ones. So it's not that easy.
Yeah, one up the back.
Can I ask you about these travel guard cards that have been around for a while?
Yes.
They work very well.
The travel cards.
Are
yes.
they really good?
They are.
Yeah, travel cards are good. Yes.
To stop people who are going past you with their
That doesn't happen that often anymore because the banks have caught on to that, so they make sure that if anything looks wrong, they'll lock your car straight away.
Yeah.
So if they're going around going tap, 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 that kind of thing.
I had my card skimmed at the lab once.
Yes.
And I hadn't given my card to anyone.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody was buying stuff down at Oakley where I never go, at a Rebel Sports Store,
Yes.
And the bank rang me up actually because they suspected there was something going on. And I said to the person there, I said, how on earth can they get hold of my information and use it without a card?
It's usually from a skimming machine, so it's usually when you put it into something. They can't usually do it when they just tap it.
Yeah,
that's
I never give it to anybody in any
retail. But if you've inserted it into a machine or slid it or anything like that, they're the ones that are picking it up. So they'll have like a little strip in there that goes over it. They caught one at Coles. A group was going around. So what they were doing, they were distracting the people that were overlooking them, they'd quickly replace one of their units with exact copy of what they had, which is usually a sort of Chinese-made one, and they'll pick it up like 2 days later. You know, 'cause most people wouldn't even realise that it's not a direct one.
And it's got all this information on it.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. It can have like thousands of.
Yeah, there was a Romanian crowd that were doing
Yeah, I think you had missed one. Remember that one with the was it a Flyby's car or something? Down in Springvale, and it was actually incorrect, wasn't it?
Yeah.
They thought it was your car, but it wasn't. It was actually somebody else's.
Yeah.
They also said to me they run algorithms 24 hours a day, 365 days a year.
Yes.
And when they log onto your stuff,
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah.
And they don't even need a card.
Yeah, we had a client yesterday, day before, these are all routed, and somebody had got hold of this lady's credit card number and had then gone to all these fast food outlets and Uber and the fast food delivery service, and the bank rang her because she's in her 70s and said, "You've never ever used fast food or Uber or takeaway. All of a sudden there's 20 transactions there. We suspect there's something wrong." And she said, "Of course." So they stopped the account straight away. So that's exactly what you're saying there, that the bank monitor it very closely.
They are getting better. It's just really hard because they're chasing criminals. So the criminals are generally going to be ahead because they pick on the smart kids out of like universities and things like that. Because the very first skimming one was actually a university student who was just mega smart. Like he was the smartest person in the university. They found him and went, "Well, we'll just offer you a job." You know, he thought it was a legitimate job. So he was making all these skimming devices, and they didn't hardly pay him anything. They paid him like maybe $30 per unit. You know, but they'll do it because they're out of uni, so they've got no money.
We had another question over here.
How do you verify websites? Say I want to give money to the Salvation Army.
Yes.
And when I look up Salvation Army, I see lots and lots of Salvation Army entries in the web.
Yes.
Page come out. What's the way of validating which truly is the Salvation
Make sure
Army?
it's verified. So nowadays they actually have. If you ever see like the lock or unlock in Google, that means it's been verified that it's a legitimate website. Yes. So that you pay for that. So it's called. It's SSL, right? So basically it's a secure license. So it's a certificate.
Right, I don't have that. It's looking up on Safari or something of that sort.
Yeah, they should have it as well. So they should have that same sort of thing.
What's it called?
So it's just verification. So it's called SSL. And,
SSL, right?
And you'll see it's actually a verifiable certificate. That's what it is. So if you actually click on, I don't know how
Go back
Safari
a
has it or
slide.
not.
Go back a slide here.
Yeah.
No, that's
To my website.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That doesn't have it because you only did that after.
Okay. So where it says up the top, where it says www,
yeah, you haven't got this. So.
HT, and it'll say HTTP. If there's an S on the end, that means it's a secure website. My website is a secure one, and that S stands for Secure Socket Layer, and that means that hackers can't get into it. So look for that S. All the banks will have the S on it, HTTPS. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, alrighty. I've got a few handouts there, so we can give those out.
Oops. Just put that. Well, thanks, Steve. I mean, that's a terrific presentation. Gives us plenty to think about, and I think the fundamental message from you guys is be careful. And when in doubt, delete.
Yes.
That fair to say?
And hang up.
Or hang up. I mean,
that also includes mobile phone calls.
Well,
if you don't recognise the number, don't answer it.
There's plenty on the
leave a message
coming through on mobile phones, and also what's you got to watch on mobile phones is text messages.
Yes.
With links. They're getting pretty
You better have one of those too for the.
One more grandchildren. That's what they're doing there. They're sending a message to your phone saying, "Oh, help me! I've lost my phone. This is my new number. I need some money. Could you send something?" Let's get
SSL. That's what the S stands for.
That's for you guys.
You have to have a website. When you have a website, when you're
All right, guys. I think we're just about ready for lunch pretty shortly. So, how's it going, Bruce? All right. As far as you know.
If you want a brief report just before we wind up.
Yep.
As far as I can tell, it has gone uninterrupted continuously since we started. There has been one continuous person watching it, fortunately, and that happens to be my partner Jan. She's just given me a verbal report and said it's gone excellently. The sound has been good. The continuous stream has been uninterrupted. So for the whole period that we've been recording it, and it's still being recorded now, it's gone extremely well. So for those of you who want to relive the experience, it will be live on our YouTube channel, recorded that is, on our YouTube channel for you to relive. So I know you've all enjoyed it. Enjoy it again on our YouTube channel. And if you want to know how to get there, just let me know and I'll show you how to get there. If anyone wants to add something to the broadcast, step in front of the camera and add to it now before I turn it off. Otherwise, it'll be turned off very shortly.
So I've given everybody a handout, and can I just have your attention? Yeah, I've given everybody a handout, so take that away, put that on the fridge. If you have any questions, please feel free to give me a call. I might not be available when you ring, but I'll always get back to you. And make sure you don't throw yourself in front of a bus, because it's not all that bad, but you'll be much more informed as to what to look out for. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. That's terrific. We really appreciate that. Very helpful, and it's a handy resource to have available if we need it. So, gentlemen, good meeting. Thanks for being here. Stay safe, stay well. September is our next meeting, and I think John's got someone lined up to talk about wills and powers of attorney. So another important subject for our age group.
You are absolutely wrong. Oh, right. I can see it. I'll just show you. Just let me finish this and I'll show it to you. I'll finish this.